There are new developments in the case of Cesar Sayak. Now, lawyers for Mr. Sayak, who is known as a massive Trump fan, who attempted to mail pipe bombs to prominent Democrats, his lawyers are now saying that President Trump's rhetoric is to blame for inspiring his would-be attacks. Now, lawyers and court officials in federal court met on Monday to discuss what's going to happen to Sayak. He's facing some very serious charges and apparently is very remorseful and apologetic for his would-be attacks. So these details are actually incredibly sad and sort of disturbing. Now, one of the details, of course, is his love and admiration for Donald Trump. Now, it's been there long before he became president, and also more details about Sayak's limited mental capacity, including his forays with steroids and other drugs. Now, Sayak, his attorneys wrote in a sentencing memo filed in federal court in New York on Monday, was a, quote, Trump superfan and began to consider Democrats as not just dangerous in theory, but imminently and seriously dangerous to his personal safety. So he believed, thanks to the rhetoric coming out from right-wing media and from Donald Trump himself, that Democrats were threatening his life. Not Trump's life, but Sayak's life. So he thought, man, the liberals are coming for me. The Antifa, they're going to kill me. I got to do something about it. Now, President Trump, according to the lawyers, wrote, did nothing to dissuade this message. Their filing cites Trump's Twitter attacks on the figures that Sayak targeted. Now, look, in many cases, by the way, I can point out how Trump had doubled down on the rhetoric, the attacks, or didn't discount it. I mean, for example, we have the conspiracy that George Soros, who was one of the recipients of these would-be pipe bombs that were non-functional, thank goodness. Not because I have a specific love for George Soros. I hate the effect that he has on our politics by giving millions and millions of dollars, even if I might agree with some of the causes that he gives money to. I just don't want that kind of influence in our politics, and I don't want it from anybody, the right or left. So let me be clear about that. But, okay, so one of the conspiracy theories is that George Soros was using his considerable wealth to fund migrant caravans to come replace Americans. I mean, that's a complete and total insanity, but it's something that they actually truly believe. At least some of these people believe that. Sayak possibly being one of them. Now, Trump, when challenged on that, said, I don't know. I hear that's what's happening. It could be happening. No, it's not. It's an insane conspiracy theory. There's no evidence of that. There's no proof of that. There's nothing. It's, again, insanity. But that's just one example. There's a lot of other examples. And there's also examples of Donald Trump basically saying, hey, you should go after my political enemies. For example, he called out the press as the enemy of the people, praised Greg Gianforte, who body slammed a reporter. You also had video of Trump telling his supporters that, hey, look, if there are protesters, beat the crap out of them. Don't worry, I'll pay your legal bills. He is the master of projection as well as the master of victimhood. So you get somebody who's not mentally there following this guy, looking up to Donald Trump as Trump tells him, I'm under attack. I'm under attack. My enemies, my political enemies, they're trying to destroy me. Somebody's got to do something. That's the implicit, emotion that is elicited or message that is sent. You got to do something. You got to do something. Danger, danger. They're coming for me. Now, Sayak's attorney offered a bit of look into the descent of his madness into Donald Trump. Sayak was a Trump fan before the reality television host ran for president and viewed him as everything he wanted to be. Self-made, successful, and a playboy, his attorneys wrote. Okay, that's weird. You have basically an admiration. Oh, he's everything that I want to be. He's everything I want to be. Not harmful in itself, but based on complete and total lies. It is a fabrication. It is an image that has been carefully cultivated throughout the years through PR and media, and the fact, of course, that Trump, his family, had a lot of money. So that's what money will get you, even if it's something that you didn't earn, money that you didn't earn yourself. Now, there's more. What really started, apparently, to lead him down this rabbit hole is cable news, specifically Fox News. Sayak, they wrote, began to watch Fox News religiously, started following political news on Facebook, and threw himself into Trump's campaign once he announced his candidacy because he came to view Trump as a personal champion, someone who had helped him through the most difficult periods of his life and who could do the same for other people across the country. Now, anybody who knows the history of Donald Trump knows that he is not a champion of regular people. He's not a champion of working people, right? And so he's nobody's personal champion except for Donald Trump. So again, super, super sad, but he had this image of Trump as, oh, you don't understand. Not only is he wealthy and successful, but he actually cares about me, people like me, which of course in his policies is not reflected, or his words not reflected at all. Now, Sayak, his lawyers wrote, began watching Fox News religiously at the gym, planning his morning workout to coincide with Fox and Friends his evenings to dovetail with Sean Hannity. Yikes. They added that with his use of steroids, he became paranoid and delusional about the false news stories that clogged his social media feed. And they also added in that he had limited cognitive abilities and mental illness. And because of that, quote, he believed outlandish reports in the news and on social media, which increasingly made him unhinged. Now, let me just stop there. You don't have to be mentally, limited or off to believe in the deluge of fake news from the Republican side. Because you have a lot of Trump supporters who are perfectly normal cognitively that believe in some of the most crazy things, insane conspiracy theories. So saying that, I mean, I get what his lawyers are trying to do because it's his lawyers, right? They're trying to make the argument that, no, the guy's crazy and normal people don't believe in this. In fact, later on, there's a section where it said that, hey, look, most people don't believe this. They just look at Trump's statements as more hyperbole, but Sayak took it much more personally. I would argue that it's not just Sayak, it's not just people with mental illness. It's a nice little scapegoat. But in reality, there is at least a third of the country that believes in insane things, and they don't have mental illness to fall back on. These are under other circumstances perfectly rational people that because of this rhetoric, because of the news media, because of Fox News and right-wing pundits, believe in some of the most insane stuff. Okay, now anyway, they said that because of his cognitive limitations, he believed in this fake news and became obsessed with so-called attacks from those he perceived as Donald Trump's enemies. He believed stories shared on Facebook that Trump supporters were being beaten in the streets. He came to believe that he was being personally targeted for supporting Trump. Mr. Sayak thought that anti-Trump forces were trying to hurt him, and they were to blame when his van became vandalized. So, look, are there instances of people attacking Trump supporters? Yeah, sure, it has happened. It's terrible. Andy knows one of them, and us on the left, we're not in favor of that, right? We're totally against that. You don't stand for us when you do and perpetrate acts of violence. And so it has happened, right? Now, has attacks against people who are against Trump happened as well? Yes, and I would argue a lot more forcefully or a lot more often. And so that is unfortunate that here you have, one side that for the most part perpetuates a majority of the violence, but you have people on the other side who think, oh, no, it's the left. It's all the left that's the violent ones. When in reality, it's been shown through studies that the majority of violence, especially domestic terror, is actually from the far right, the right-wing groups. So, anyway, now let me give you that quote here from SIAC's attorneys that I mentioned earlier. A rational observer may have brushed off Trump's tweets as hyperbole, but Mr. SIAC took them to heart. And again, here's the thing, okay? When you have a leader out there, or when you have pundits out there that are constantly saying, I'm under attack, this is war, this is the kind of language that they're using, right? They hate America. Look, just recently, I think it was earlier today or possibly yesterday, there's a rally Donald Trump was at, and he was railing against, again, the members of the squad, AOC, saying that not only, like, are they anti-America, they hate America, but they also hate Israel, they hate all Jewish people, they're the worst. Now, for somebody whose mind is unhinged, what message does that send? What does it tell? Not only does it say, oh my God, these people are horrible, they're the enemy, they hate everybody, but, well, what do you do when somebody's an enemy, you're trying to bring down America? Well, you got to do something. You got to do something about it. And so that's what SIAC was brought to, and they call that stochastic terrorism. Okay? And so they believe, I mean, there is a subsection in this country, like SIAC, that believes in the constant lies that come out of the right wing and Trump's mouth. And again, Fox News, definitely to blame for spreading a lot of this garbage misinformation, but you also have, other pundits on the right. And so, that's a huge problem. They rile people up, and it's, no surprise that when they do that, there are certain people that someone, they hear all this stuff. They hear all this absolute garbage, and they think, I got to do something about it. They're the enemy of the people. I'm the people. They're my enemy. I got to do something about it. And so that's where we're at. Now, SIAC's mother, actually, this is Madeline Saylor, right? She said in a statement last year, imploring President Trump to calm down the rhetoric, right? She said, our political leaders like President Trump need to recognize that there are many sick people in this country who take their rhetoric and words of war with the media and war with the Democrats to heart. Now, that was last year. Has he done that? Well, no. Again, what's dominated the headlines for the past week and a half is him telling four, young women of color, progressives, to go back to their crime-infested, crime-ridden, corruption-ridden countries. If you don't like America, leave America. You should go. And of course, if that's not enough evidence, here you have, just take a look at his Twitter feed. There's video, there's Twitter, there are news stories every day about how he continues to make attacks against others, while, of course, claiming him the victim. And now here's the irony about all this, right? People like AOC, people like the Squad, the progressives, right? We actually want to help people like SIAC before they become violent. Look at his situation, right? SIAC's lawyers wrote that their client was pushed to the margins of society by a series of traumatic events that, of course, could happen to anybody, right? In addition to his learning disabilities, he also had a issue of child sexual abuse, estrangement from his family, drug dependency, and then, of course, losing everything in the Great Recession. So the guy was basically on the edge. And then the Great Recession pushed him off of it. By 2018, they write, he was living alone in a decrepit and cramped van that had been his home for more than a decade. A typical day saw Mr. SIAC waking up in his van, showering at the gym, and cooking crock-pot meals while inside a DJ booth of a strip club before heading off to his second job delivering pizza. He had 2 jobs. As he grew older and more isolated, excessive steroid use increased his feelings of anxiety and paranoia. In this darkness, they wrote, Mr. SIAC found light in Donald J. Trump. How that right there is a tragedy unto itself. How could somebody look at someone like Donald Trump and think, no, that's my light. That's my guiding light. That's my guy. He cares about me. But look, here's the other thing, right? What he did, of course, deserves punishment. You don't just send, even if it's non-functional pipe bombs to people. I mean, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable, right? And but I'm trying to look at this guy as a fellow human being, right? And so I know some of you may be like, I don't care what's befallen him, what kind of problems he's faced. I care what he did, and he put people in danger, and I can completely understand that view. And I totally get it, and what he did, completely unacceptable, right? But at the same time, here you had somebody working 2 jobs, no home, no mental health care, which he obviously needed, no health care at all, no light, no hope. That was lured in by the false promise that is Donald Trump and the right wing. That false promise was built on a mountain of lies and spread by Fox News and right-wing media. This is why rhetoric matters. This is one reason why the far right is so incredibly dangerous. This charged language about the enemies, about being at war with each other, the constant imagery of doing violence against people on what they consider to be the left, which, except for in isolated cases involving, for example, Antifa, doesn't really happen. We don't really have that kind of problem on the left because the left doesn't believe in violence. We defeat them in the ballot box and then do policy that helps us all live better lives, which is what we've always been trying to do to move progress and to help people like Sayak before they become violent. And so this is just an incredibly sad story all around. There's no good people. But in Sayak, we have a clear example of a society that has failed someone. And what did that person have to turn to? Fascism. If there's a lesson to be learned, it's that we need to do everything in our power to prevent that. Because this is how fascism rises. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.